Is your team not performing well? Is morale low and turnover high? Are you falling further behind the competition? I'm here to help. I'm your host, Shani, and this is the Leadership Show, where business strategy and culture finally meet, and we make the long-awaited shift from rhetoric to results. I promise I'm not your typical boring leadership consultant, and I will help you get your shift together. Let's do this.
Welcome everyone to our second webinar for the Lead with Love Music Festival. We are again so happy to see you and know that there is so much that everyone could be doing at this time and a lot of crazy and family and work and everything. So we appreciate you joining us. And
yes, we love you.
Yeah, we love
Leading
you.
with love.
Exactly. And I'm wearing my red shirt and I even wash my hair. So it's pretty amazing. So much happening today. Okay. So do we need any technical info to give them today, Shani, before we jump?
Why don't we introduce ourselves first?
Yeah. Oh, that is such a good idea.
I'm Shani Magoski. I'm an executive coach, leadership development and culture consultant, cat mommy, and joining everyone in quarantine today from sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Excellent. And I'm Jennifer Davis, also a leadership coach and trainer and speaker and mama to a dog and 3 people. And I am joining from quarantine in Princeton/Hopewell, New Jersey. So welcome. And I think everyone, if you could put yourselves on mute, and then during the webinar, we're going to invite you to make comments sometimes. And you can always talk to us in the chat room. Comfortable, you can chat with one of us individually. All right. So let's get started here. So before we get started, I am going to just remind everyone that it's a crazy time. You probably don't need that reminder. And we want to just check in with you and see what's happening. So this slide is asking you what your weather is. And you can see from the pictures in the corners, looking at the pictures, maybe you feel a little stormy, or you're feeling rainy, or the windy one kind of makes me feel like there's a lot of frenetic energy and a lot going on, or maybe you're feeling calm and sunny. So take a look at the pictures and the words and any other weather pattern that might be coming up for you right now, and give us a message in the chat room or unmute yourself and share. Where are you today right now? If you had to name your weather pattern. 71 and sunny. Okay. And we're getting some who are cold and gray.
Yep.
What else?
So this is your personal, how are you feeling? Although I'm guessing that the person who put 71 and sunny, I know she lives in LA and may also personally be feeling sunny.
Yeah, exactly. And we have some sunny personal weather patterns with some strong winds and some beauty, some clouds, some springtime, some agreement. So as you can, and I'm feeling pretty peaceful. What would you say your weather pattern is right now, Shani?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've had mixed weather this week. I've had some news that I would characterize as stormy. I've also had some other experiences that fall into the sunshine and warming category. So kind of a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, and we see that even in some of the personal comments. Someone just texted or messaged in that partly cloudy with some breakthrough and cool breezes. So again, with everything going on, it's not abnormal to feel even a range of weather patterns or moods or emotions, even in one single moment. And again, whatever you're feeling is welcome, and thank you for checking in with us. We are here to, next slide, to help you manage what we're all going through, and just a reminder of why we formed the Lead with Love dance party or music festival. It's to help all of you and your teams process and move forward with purpose through this crisis by really connecting with our collective genius and passion and humanity. And it's hard to do that and remember that in times of crisis. And you will notice with a logo, another reminder for those who were here last week, that we're not only going to be coming from our heads, but also from our hearts and from our gut, or our intuition. And that's really a lot of what we're going to be focusing on today. Today's topic is love on a two-way street, and it's about lots of virtual employees. It's no surprise, it's been going on for several weeks now, that we are not in our offices and we're dealing with a lot of technology issues and work from home issues, and it can be really frustrating to figure out how to keep it together personally, and also keep it together for your teams and your employees and your families. That is what we are going to be talking about. So wouldn't it be great if you could just say to your people, as you're thinking, okay, we are in the middle of this pandemic and we also have a job to do, just don't panic. Just don't panic. Yeah, it would be great if people would stop panicking, even though it's not so easy. So this is SpongeBob. It's like, if you could just be like, please stop panicking, it would be great. It would be great for all of us. It doesn't really work that way, right? And the opposite extreme would be people who are just more directive and more authoritative, and just that sense of wanting to calm people down might show up as a behavior that actually escalates. So how do we get people to stop panicking? We are going to give you some tools today. That's the great news. And before we do that, we thought it would be fun to just give a little shout out to Zoom, since we are all in this Zoom crazy world. So we just have a 60-second clip from our favorite video that Shani and I can't stop singing. So that'll just put us all in a Zoom space.
Yep. Everybody put on your face.
All I wanna do is zoom in my room. This lighting sucks. All I wanna do is zoom in my room. I'm eating lunch. All I wanna do is zoom in my room. I'm wearing sweats. All I wanna do is zoom in my room. Check out my pets. Chat baby 1 2 3 4. Chat baby 1 2 3. Chat baby 1 2. Chat baby 1. Yeah, I'm a Zoom user, and people from around the nation are gonna get to see my new presentation. They can't enable video, they gonna need directions. And Bob keeps on freezing cause he has a bad connection. And Phyllis looks like she's joining from her bedroom, but it's all ceiling, yeah, too much headroom. Jeff's the funny one who used the background editor, but it isn't working and he looks like he's the predator. The offices are closed and we're all making the best of it. My son got catch up on my quarterly estimate. My wife walked past, she didn't know that she was on. She's embarrassed cause she did her first Zoom bar.
It's funny every time, right? It's never not funny.
And it's like a whole 3-minute thing, but we just clip a minute of it.
Clip it.
To set
Yeah,
the
but a show of thumbs, who can relate to something in that video? Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. And in a way, it's great because it's giving us permission to really tap into our messiness and our humanity, which is something that has been really longing to come out in the corporate serious world. So in a way, yep, it's letting us do that. Okay, so we are going to get to the goals for the day. What are we here for? What are our objectives? There is so much that we could share if we had all day or 2 days on how to best deal with virtual teams. And there are a lot of best practices lists and articles, and we do have some links to those in the handout that you're going to get at the end, and that's also on our website. For today, what we really want to do is help you set the groundwork for success. So all the things that are good business practices for you in leadership and for your teams, and setting goals and defining responsibilities, that's still going to be there. And today we are going to talk about how can we give you some tools to adopt a coach mindset that will really allow you to build some connection with your teams as they're going through this difficult time, and discuss norms and ways things need to change. So that's the first objective. And the second objective is to leverage some best practices for engaging and empowering people. Again, separate from the usual work, it's more the mindset. So we are going to be talking about how we can step into and set the groundwork for a mindset that will help you deal with all these virtual employees, all the panic, and everything we've talked about to date.
Yep. And what we want to do is give you some tools, just like we did last week, that are simple and different than what we see other people providing to you. Okay. And in terms of the first goal of adopting a coaching mindset, the bottom line is what we need to create on our teams in any environment, whether it's a pandemic or not, is psychological safety. Okay. You can see the funny graphic with the woman on the high wire taking some risk, but she's some people have got her back or her bottom, as the case may be. And psychological safety has become a big buzzword in corporate worlds. It was originally, the term was originally coined by a Harvard researcher and professor named Amy Edmondson, and it was popularized by Google 5-6 years ago because they did an internal study. You know, they take data, not just ours and the stuff that they get off of our internet searches. They take their own employee engagement and evaluation data, and they sought to answer the question, what are the common characteristics of our most effective teams? And what they found surprised the hell out of them. It wasn't the teams with the most MBAs. It wasn't the teams with the most engineers or the ones that had the most effective meetings. It were the teams that actually exhibited an environment of psychological safety that performed the best. And so they sought to understand what that meant. And, you know, this is not a course on psychological safety, but some of the elements of it are, there's trust between all the team members. There's transparency, the ability to bring your full self to your team and not be embarrassed and have to, you know, wear masks and fit in. There's an attitude of fail forward, encouraging risk, that if you make a mistake, when you're innovating and you've done it in the spirit of innovation as opposed to carelessness, that you're not going to be penalized, that it's going to be a learning experience and a growing experience, and so that comfort with taking risk, etc. So how do we create that? That's the thing, because all the literature out there on psychological safety is more about the what is it, not the how do you create it. And so that's kind of where we want to go today, with a bit of a silver bullet, if you will, around what's the fast track to creating psychological safety? And that's to be a coach.
Not that we're self-promoting our profession or anything.
Right,
but,
exactly. You know, it's as simple as being a coach and as difficult as being a coach, as we'll talk. This is not what it looks like, right? We want to explore what it does look like. So the old school conception of a coach who screams and yells and demands, completely out of date. We're going to talk about what coaching looks like today, and we're going to give you a tool to become a coach by the time you leave this webinar, right? You can say to yourself, oh my God, but people go to school and get certifications for years to become a coach. Yes, and we've got a coaching hack for you to turn you all into leader coaches. But first, I want us to think about, what does great coaching look like? So everybody think about someone they've experienced in their life who's a great coach and what made them great, right? And I'm going to invite you to either unmute and share about this coach. Could be a sports coach that you had, or a sports coach that your kids had, or it could be a teacher, professor, could be a leader that you had. Doesn't really matter the context, but either type into the chat room or unmute and share what were the characteristics of that great coach. Right, got our first answer in the chat room: a balance of challenging me and supporting me. Yes, absolutely. Right, pushing you somewhere that you might not have gone on your own, and at the same time championing you, giving you that, helping you boost that confidence. Love that. Someone saying being with me when emotions show up. Yes, not being afraid to be with us when our shit gets stirred. I love it. Understanding, connecting dots I can't see. Yes, coaches do. They have that bigger picture. Had business coach for over 20 years. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll. The answers in the chat room are coming so fast.
Yeah, I'll field them. Yeah, seeing that there's a possibility in you that perhaps you don't see yourself.
Yep.
Which is a good one. Seeing your potential.
Non-judgment. Okay, I see that. Slow down and think. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, understanding my interests and leveraging my strengths, seeing possibility. Right, we got that. So deeply involved, provides productive tools. Asking versus telling. Yes, that's a huge one, and we're going to get into that when we give you the turbo coaching tools.
Yeah.
Right, so think about that same great coach, and what advice would they give you for your team today? So whatever you might be struggling with or stuck on with regard to the quarantine, or managing a virtual team, or communicating, or even with your family, maybe you're getting cabin fever, how hold up with the kids and the family, and maybe you got some in-laws with you, right? What would this coach say to you today? And again, either unmute or let's have some replies in the chat room.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get some brave people to unmute. Get some more voices on here. Who wants to share?
Okay.
I'll share. This is Doreen. I think that coach would tell me to breathe, that this too shall pass, and to actively engage and listen and come to the table without any assumptions, because it's a brave new world.
Yep. Brilliant. Thank you, Doreen. We've got some other answers in the chat. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think my coach would tell me right now that your brand as a leader is really, really made during times of crisis, and people are going to be watching you right now, and your story, your brand is going to be shaped by how you handle this. And I think just sort of the other piece of advice would be make sure you pay attention to where people are, but also help them think about what could be.
Absolutely. You know, these two questions that we just asked are actually coaching questions. So we're modeling coaching for you, because we all have the ability to tap into the things that we know, but somehow we get blocked from knowing because we're in a place of overwhelm or confusion or fear or whatever. So even just the question of, okay, let me think of a great coach I had. What would he or she say right now is a way to coach yourself or to coach your team member. And again, we're going to go further and teach you a model to use today. So thank you, everybody, for your contributions. I love everything I'm seeing in the chat room and have been hearing from those of you who are unmuting, including there's quite a few comments about this is a time to give, be a strong leader, help the community. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what I love about some of the pretty much, I would even say all of the comments so far are that they're, we didn't hear to-do lists about making sure that you're getting your share numbers, or make sure that you're acquiring, this number of sales. It's really about tapping into kind of the compassion and the heart and the things that this webinar series is about. So again, it's almost permission to say, you know what, that is what is most needed now. And we just kind of saw an example of that.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to give you a few to-bes and a few to-dos as a coach. And the to-bes are just like the mindset that you bring. And actually, before I go through them, let me just say, there's hundreds of ways to be and to do good coaching. And in the span of a 1-hour webinar, we wouldn't dream of trying to overwhelm you with all of them. So again, our intention here is not to be comprehensive. It's to give you a few things to think about that are going to be really meaningful and somewhat different. So the first is to be curious, right? Ask open-ended, non-leading questions, and in response to those questions, you're going to get answers, right? This webinar is love on a two-way street, meaning leadership and working with our people is not just us telling, right? It's having conversations. It's interactive. Talk less, listen more, sort of the bottom line on curious. The second thing to point out is to be more of a champion instead of a fixer. And we are hardwired as leaders to fix, right? That's what we used to be rewarded for, was knowing the answers and giving the right instructions to people. Well, that is no way to empower people or to teach them to catch their own fish, if you will. So what we want to be as a coach is someone who drives people to be self-sufficient and passionate about what they're doing and confident in what they're doing. And we're never going to get there if we're just telling and fixing. The third thing is, of course, to be human, right? Let's have some empathy. Let's be patient, especially in times like this. And new behaviors, new ways of being, and new to-dos, if you will, may feel awkward, right? And that's okay. And listen, if there's any time to try awkward, it's probably now, right? Because shift happens when we change our patterns. And the only way to change our results is to do something different, i.e. to change those patterns. And so the 4 things we want to focus on in terms of doing as a coach leader are on this slide. And we're going to go through each one of them. But in summary, to start, increasing connection and trust, right? Psychological safety, we said, is the big umbrella concept here that being a coach leads to. Creating team agreements. And then our 5 whats of turbo coaching, which is the hack to turn every single one of you into a coach, even if you've never had a coaching class. And lastly, to assign clear and clever roles. Starting with increasing connection and trust. That's a lot of what we did in webinar number 1, which was a crazy little thing called lots of various emotions. And the tools we taught there, for those of you who weren't able to attend, there's a replay and the handout available on our website, leadershipsteam.com. We talked about the STAR method for processing our emotions. We practiced some box breathing to calm our nervous systems, and we taught a daily habit stack called GAIN to help us get grounded and more productive. So that's a piece of it. And the piece that we're not going to spend any time on, but we would be remiss not to mention, are all the creative tools that like everyone in the world is publishing and talking about to engage people in a virtual environment in order to increase positivity and fun and make all these godforsaken Zoom calls as palatable as possible. So Google, hey, what are the best icebreakers out there, and do virtual meetings, coffee or happy hour with your people. And of course, continue to monitor the emotional field. Things like we did at the beginning today with the weather check. And the reason we did that is it's an accessible way for anybody to explain what they're feeling, even if they're people who are not accustomed to sharing their emotions. It feels a lot less scary to say, oh, dark and stormy or rainy, than to actually say the word fear.
Yeah, less scary.
And I would say overall, the best way to create connection and trust is to be vulnerable. And there is no better poster child for vulnerability than author and Professor Brene Brown, who is one of our absolute faves. And this is one of our most favorite quotes from her: people who wade into discomfort and vulnerability tell the truth about their stories and are the real badasses.
That's awesome.
All right,
Yeah.
Jen, take it away.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So number 2 on our list is to create a team agreement, and you can call it an agreement or a contract or an alliance. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, but it's basically an intentional conversation, doesn't have to be a full meeting, about how we want to navigate, how we want to show up during this time. And again, as we keep mentioning, these are great leadership tools during any time, and they're especially helpful during a crisis. So if you feel like, oh, wow, this is going to work now, but it's not really part of my regular job, it actually would be great to become part of your regular job. So it's leadership development forced upon you, not necessarily by choice, and this is where we are. Okay. Why would we create a team agreement? When you think of a team, again, it can be any group that you're working with. So it could be an official work team. It could be your family. It could be people you do projects with. So we're all part of many different systems or teams. It's basically more than one person who comes together to work on something. And intentionally setting an agreement on things, it really allows for, number one, for you to define or redefine your culture. A lot of times we say, oh, I wish my team were more loving or supportive, and it's almost like we want someone else to do that, or we want it to spontaneously happen, which is great if it does. And those of us who are in long-term relationships, we know that it's hard to make a change. And so this is almost a good excuse to say, you know what, I'm going to take a stand here, and I'm going to have a conversation about the culture that we want. And number two, it is a living document, so it's not something that has to be perfect and published. It can change as needs change, or with trial and error, and it sets expectations and accountabilities, and most importantly, it has shared language. So again, if to take our icebreaker this morning, or this midday, whatever it is, 12 o'clock here, it's on the West Coast, it's morning. So if you say to someone, hey, what's the weather? I'm just checking in on your weather. How's it going? If you've already talked about that, it's kind of a shared thing that bonds you. It's almost like those private jokes that you have with friends and family, and especially with awkward topics. So some teams and some work relationships especially have a hard time with feedback and having conversations about failure and things like that. So if you have a conversation about how you want to do it, which gets to number three, setting a conflict protocol, then it's easier when conflict arises to say, remember we talked about wanting to be really direct when we had a problem? Let's do that. So again, it's a good starting point to come back to.
Yeah. And let me just interject there real quick, Jen,
Yeah.
that the time to set your conflict protocol is when you're not in conflict, right? It's not when you are triggered and trying to navigate it. Like, do it when everything is calm so that you can refer back to it when something arises.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. It's hard to have those conversations when you're triggered, as we know from personal experience as well as coaching. And number four is that it includes all voices and assigns co-responsibility. So again, we're not saying, I want you to be more responsible, or I want you to be nicer to me. It's more taking the voice of the team and saying, we want to commit to this. So it's really you taking responsibility, the other people taking responsibility, and then taking joint responsibility. Okay, so that's hopefully people are at least partially convinced on the value of this.
Yes.
The next step is, so how do I do it? Okay, so you might be sitting there like, I don't know. I mean, that sounds great, but what the heck? I have no idea how to do it. So that's what we're here for. We are going to go through a little checklist, which again is in your handouts, and teach you some steps for creating such an agreement. Shani will be my my little demo, if that's okay. Shani? Yes. I will ask you these questions. Okay. So this is a how do I create a team agreement. So Shani, why don't you think about, and again, it would be a team that you're currently working with, but for the purposes of today, I'm going to say just think of a team that you work with or a group that you're a part of.
Yeah.
Okay.
The leadership team.
Oh my gosh. So we are making it about us and other people. Okay. So what are the core values with this leadership team that you would want in a team agreement?
Number one, fun.
Okay.
And then I would say honesty / transparency, and commitment to excellence. Like anyone who knows me knows I like to do shit the right way.
Okay, me too. That's why we work together. Okay. And again, you would be getting feedback from everyone in your group, but for the purposes of this, we're demonstrating what this kind of conversation might look like.
And by the way, we're demoing this, right, so that you can take this back and use it on your team. And just to give you some super quick examples, it wouldn't be just like a couple of things each. You would, so let's.
Yeah, spend a good half hour, whatever you can have in terms of time to work this out. Number two is expectations of each other. Mm-hmm. So Shani, when you think about this team that you / we are on, mm-hmm. what's important around expectations? What do you expect? What do you expect from others? What do they expect from you?
Yep, I expect when we're working together on these Zoom calls and collaborating that everybody's fully present and done their best to be distraction free. You know, Pets are okay. No, but seriously, I mean, obviously in this time of COVID, and I'm trying to make a lot of my answers actually more specific to the here and now, because we want people to go back and use this now with their teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, try and be distraction free, and also be a little empathetic that may not be possible.
Yeah.
And I'd say the other thing I would expect really of any team I work with now or ever would be deadlines. Like if like, don't miss the deadline and then tell me. Like if it looks like you're going to miss a deadline, come to me or the team, renegotiate the deadline, and then if it's not going to meet the original timeline.
Yeah. So it sounds like communication,
Yes.
open communication about things are really important. Great.
Yep.
Number 3 is really critical, and we're going to give you all a chance to practice this after we go through the list. Number 3 is really getting a sense for people on the team, for everyone on the team, even the voices that may not normally be as vocal. What do you need? What does everyone need to feel like it is a safe, fell forward, psychologically safe environment? And those needs are different for everyone, and you're not going to agree on everything. And it's a great way to have that kind of conversation, because the bottom line is this is all happening inside each person anyway. And as we know, we greatly increase the emotional intelligence of any group just by bringing awareness to what's basically already there. So safety. So what's one thing, again, I know it's not comprehensive, Shani, that you need on this team to feel safe?
Yep. Feedback, positive and constructive, balanced feedback, and just an awareness of some of the things that are happening in my personal life that actually aren't even COVID related. Just some family health things are also happening for me right now.
Okay. All right. Number 5. Oh no, we're on 4. I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh my gosh.
My favorite.
4. Yes. I can't believe I skipped it. I love conflict discussions as well. So what is it that you want on this team with regard to conflict and difficult conversations and feedback and things like that?
Easy. 2 things. Don't do it over email. Like, let's talk Zoom to Zoom, and bring your best self to resolve it. Like, get yourself together before you get on the call. And I wouldn't expect you necessarily to have the resolution, but I want people to bring that human side that we talked about of being with a coach.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying too is if we're all going to get triggered and have reactive behaviors that perhaps aren't our best selves. And what you're asking of the team is, hey, if you're upset, if you have feedback, kind of get yourself together, have your emotional reaction, and then come to me via a phone call or in person. Yep. And so again, that would be a great discussion to have with the other people. And someone might say, oh, well, I actually need to resolve things right away. And then you can have the conversation about it. And again, then if you and I get into something, and even if you have a different way of handling conflict, we can refer back to that conversation. I can say, look, I know that you like to talk about this once I've calmed down, but I really need to talk to you now. Can you indulge me for 5 seconds? And, then maybe you say yes, maybe you say no. I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. We haven't had a real fight. So that's good, I guess. Okay. And number 5 is about procedures and norms and communication style. So obviously with this COVID environment, it's very different, right? I have a client who I was talking to about the lack of the ability to just kind of walk by someone and get feedback on their ideas. And that was really impacting the feeling about the work. So you might put in some procedures like, let's have a daily check-in. Let's have a policy where we can jump into a WhatsApp group, not to talk about business issues necessarily, but maybe just to say hi. So that's an opportunity there to set some norms. How long do we take to get back to each other? Things like that. So what is one that you might have, Shani?
Yeah, I would say be attentive to keeping Slack status updated so that we're not interrupting each other. So like if you're available, great. Have the green button. If you're on a phone call, let the rest of us know, just to manage expectations around availability.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for demoing that. And now in the interest of time, we're not going to go through all 5 of those, but Shani's going to pull up a whiteboard. So if the rest of you just keep using the chat function, don't pull down the whiteboard because then it just gets confusing. That's for another webinar. And we're going to explore two items on the list. One is what we need to feel safe. And the other one is a conflict protocol, because these are the two that people typically don't talk about. So it's an opportunity for you to think about how you might handle these. So each of you, think of a team that you're on or a group that you're in. Again, it could be your family, it could be a work team. And what are some things that you need to feel safe? And again, if you want to anonymously send us a chat just to us personally and not share with the group, that's fine. Or if you want to unmute yourself and talk, we would love to hear some voices other than ours.
Yeah, and I'm going to take notes on the whiteboard. So unmute and give us some answers.
Sure, I can add one.
Great.
I would like to make sure that people are trying to be coming from a place of non-judgment and leading with goodwill.
Awesome. Yeah,
Love that.
that's great.
Big one for me is if you feel something about me, is that you come to me to talk about it rather than talking to someone else about it.
Yeah. So no gossiping, just more direct feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have it in the chat room, no judgment, another one for no judgment, and
Okay.
a space to talk. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Who else has one more thing that would let them feel safe, that maybe they do have already in a group or a team, or it's something that they aspire to have? Assume positive intent and vulnerability. Those are two great ones. Yeah.
Assume correct spelling.
Yeah. Yeah. And vulnerability. Okay, great. So that
Great.
is,
Let's do number 4.
yeah. So the number 4 is a conflict protocol. And we've talked a little bit about how we like to handle conflict. How do you like to handle conflict? What is your dream team in terms of how you all show up when disagreement, failure, awkwardness, any of those things show up, which of course they will, because it's normal. How do you want to handle it? What's important? Oh, someone typed in ass you me, assume, don't assume, because you know, you make an ass out of you and me. That's a good one.
Yep. And
Listen first, talk
second.
Yeah.
Got it.
Respond and don't react. We have what can we learn? So it's that opportunity to see something that didn't go as we had planned and really see it as a growth area. Directness, not taking things personally, remembering we're in it together. Oh, I love this one, low intensity with high directness.
In it together.
Yeah, so many
Low
things.
Intensity, high directness.
Yeah, good.
Awesome. I may not have gotten them all, but
Oh, there are 2 more. Yes, and we don't have to agree. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and is
Use
one of our
yes
favorite improv tools that works
and
well.
Don't have to
And
agree.
we don't have to agree. Okay, so typically you could have a meeting and do this with your teams, and then maybe pick 2 or 3 that you really want to focus on. And it doesn't have to be a huge exhaustive list that we always have to hit all of these things. But if you have had this conversation, again, if someone, let's say they don't yes and you, they're yes butting you, or they're always shutting you down with a no, you could say, I know that we agreed that yes and was one of the things we were going to work on as a team. So can we revisit that conversation or anything? All right. Well, speaking of conversations, we just had one. Thank you for playing along. And let's just take a minute to debrief that. Is there someone who can unmute themselves and talk about what it was like to go through that exercise, or if they see a use for that in some of their current teams?
This is Erin. I have a different kind of use for it. I train managers.
Great.
So I plan on using it I actually train brand new managers. So they're apprentice managers, and I plan to put this to use in my training program. Thank
Oh,
you.
great.
Excellent.
Good.
You know what I love about that, Erin, is you don't have to break bad habits. You can establish good habits right out of the gate.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes. When you work with senior leaders, they're a little hardwired to the ways they like to do things.
Yeah, sometimes unlearning is just as important as learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for
Good.
sharing, Erin.
All
Yeah.
right, so should we get to the turbo what's?
Let's get to the turbo what's. Go for it.
There's some good meat here. So basically, as I was alluding to, the turbo what is, or sorry, the 5 what's of turbo coaching is a way to kind of hack coaching. So like if Tim Ferriss, the author of the 4-Hour Work Week and some of those type of books, were gonna summarize a way to coach quickly, I imagine that this is kind of the way he would do it. You don't have to have gone to coaching school and have all the kinds of certifications that Jennifer and I have in order to be an effective coach in a leadership position. And essentially what it's all about is when someone on your team is stuck, instead of telling them what to do, we want to ask questions instead. It's really that simple. We're going to be less directive and more curious. As the 5 what's name might imply, all 5 questions begin with the word what.
So
Number
easy.
1, what's your goal? Number 2, what's happening now? Number 3, what's getting in your way? What are your obstacles? 4, if anything were possible, what could you do? This is the brainstorming question. And number 5, what will you do? That's the accountability question. Okay, so what I would love to do is demonstrate this, because really the best way to discern the power of the 5 what's is to see it in action. So is there someone who would be willing to unmute and for literally just 3 or 4 minutes, think of a relatively light topic that I can demonstrate turbo coaching on you?
It's going to be so fun.
Any place you're stuck or need to move forward or want accountability, or you're in the middle of trying to figure out a solution, those would all be good topics for coaching.
I can go.
I can go to choose between Jessica or myself.
Okay. Well, Veronique, why don't you do it? Because I heard your voice first. Right.
All right.
So just real quick, kind of what's the topic that we're going to coach on, Veronique?
Just before we went online, I was listening to Governor Cuomo's updates, and he just updated us that we're stuck for another month until mid-May in lockdown.
Okay.
And yeah, no surprise. I knew it in a way. I mean, I was expecting it. But
Yeah.
the fact of reading it on his blue slides kind of made it concrete. And all of a sudden, I'm like,
All right. So
yeah.
what's your goal right in this moment on that topic? What do you want to achieve in this turbo coaching?
Yeah, I was good before. I want to go back there.
Okay, so you want to find a way back to feeling good. Got it. So
Yeah.
you actually just described a little bit of what's happening now. You just heard Governor Cuomo sentence you to another month in self-imposed quarantine. What else is happening for you as you process that news?
There was an idea of end of April, which was artificially in my mind. Like I knew it was going to be a staggered exit, but like, oh, that's another 2 weeks. And it's more this never ending. Yeah, I'm like this. I feel in a wheel, like the wheel
Yeah,
is like,
I
well,
feel
when is
that
the exit of the wheel?
Yeah. Got it.
So
Okay.
what's
So
happening
what are
now?
the
Yeah.
obstacles right now to you getting back to that feel good place?
Say it again. What are the obstacles?
What are the obstacles right now for you getting back to feeling good?
Just rewiring my brain, differently. I don't know why I reacted like this.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well, I want to invite you to just think broadly, right? Take off the virtual mask and
yes.
and quarantine hat. If you could do anything right now to get yourself back into the mindset of, yeah, all right, I'm good, what could you do?
I think it's owning back a sense of space. So maybe yeah, maybe like a long walk, or feeling that I'm not trapped in one single place.
Got it. Okay.
So probably regaining a sense of freedom and space in a way, even
Okay.
if it's what
Okay.
it is.
What else could you do, right? You're not committing to any of these things in brainstorming. You're just coming
Um,
up with ideas.
Yeah, maybe I could start dreaming about my next vacation also, whenever it could
Ooh,
happen.
love it. Okay. One more thing you could do.
One more thing I could do. I'm going to do that because I was thinking about it yesterday, but now it's going to be, all kinds of chefs in New York are stopped because they can't work in restaurants, and they're putting online websites where you can order 3 stars restaurants type menus and be delivered, and really like top-notch chefs.
Okay.
And I've seen an article on that, and there's all kinds of also world cuisine. So maybe it's about ordering one of these meals a week until the end of this damn thing, just to
Traveling
also
the world
try.
through food.
Exactly.
I love it.
There's something there.
Right. So you just had 3 great ideas. I didn't have to give you any suggestions. You had 3 amazing ideas. You could go for a long walk so that you don't feel trapped. You could start to dream about your next vacation, and you could travel the world through Michelin-starred meal delivery. What will you do?
But right now I'm going to do 1 and 3, and the next vacation I will keep it under the belt because I don't want to overdream. Like if they have to continue closing down,
Right. Save something for next time Cuomo
so
comes
I'm
on.
saving.
Right?
exactly. So I'm
All right.
saving it for a bit later.
Yeah. Good. Thank you for volunteering.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So,
That was cool.
you guys see, she solved her own problem, and that is typically what happens with coaching. But as leaders, we feel compelled to, you're feeling trapped. Well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And let me tell you what works for me. Well, you know what? What works for me may not work for Veronique or anyone else. So let's just ask the 4 whats and watch the magic of them solving their own problems. We're going to put you guys in breakout rooms now to practice this on each other, and it's going to be super quick. You're going to have 3 minutes apiece. So literally, like, think of kind of a light topic and turbo your answers to. It's not ideal, but I just want you guys to get into the habit of asking the questions, right? So breakout rooms, hold on.
Oh, and there's a link in the chat to a worksheet that gives the question. So if you want to quickly look in the chat and download that, you'll get the questions.
All right. Okay, I'm sending you guys into the breakout rooms for 6 minutes. I'll give you a 3-minute warning when it's time to switch. Hi, Michelle.
Janie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I noticed that the person you were paired up with didn't seem to be there, so I thought I'd pop in.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you.
I love your glasses.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much.
Pretty color.
You've been quite busy since the last time we connected. I was still with First Data, so my gosh, that's 8 years ago, maybe?
Yep. Oh my God, has it been that long?
Yes. But you haven't aged at all.
Neither of us has aged. Isn't that amazing? And you launched your own business since then, I've seen, yeah?
I did, just in February. Just took the opportunity to start something new. I still love Ronstadt. I think they're fantastic, but it was time to do something different, and who knew the world was going to explode? You know, so
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to practice turbo coaching? I mean, you know how to do this, so
Sure,
you know how to do full coaching.
Let's see. I've got the questions here. So how about if I coach you? Yeah?
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
You can still hear me because I think the camera's just a little frozen.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So Shani, how's it going?
Good.
So I think this is one of the first times that we've had a chance to talk, and I would love to hear about, you know, what you've got in mind and a goal that I can help you coach it with. Yeah.
You know, I would say my goal is, got a lot of different goals. I need
Pick one.
Yeah, I wanna get another class online right now because all the in-person stuff is just not happening.
This is true. So you were doing a lot of in-person, and now that has to become more virtual delivery.
Yeah.
Great. So, you know, what else is happening now? What makes you feel like online learning is the way to go?
Well, right now it's the only alternative. And I feel like learning shouldn't stop just because people are at home. And quite frankly, there's so many businesses that are highly distributed anyway.
Yes.
Like for me, it's not that novel of a concept to deliver virtual training, but I guess for a lot of people, for a lot of organizations, it is. And I just think the worst time to stop investing in people is during a crisis.
So, so your goal is to do more online, and it's very relevant to what's happening now, both in the world and also to help people continue their learning. So I think that's terrific and very clear on what it is you want to do. So what would you anticipate might get in your way?
Just well, part of what gets in my way is, even as I've checked in on a lot of my clients, they're not there yet. You know, so I can create something, but if nobody buys it,
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the obstacle I'm hearing is readiness, right? Your client readiness.
Readiness and budget, because almost every client, and even just like friends who work at companies, like I had a friend of mine who's a lawyer yesterday. He texted me and he's like, "Oh, my firm just cut salaries across the board by 15% indefinitely." You know, so salaries are getting cut, expenses are getting cut, and that includes L&D.
Absolutely. I'm hearing the same thing for sure. And furloughed employees. And so those are definitely obstacles. But what would you do if those weren't obstacles? What can you do meanwhile, while we're waiting for the ship to turn right?
Yeah. You know, what actually strikes me is doing things like this. Like, this is a free webinar series that we're sort of offering open enrollment. Like, if I can get a client who I care about to just commit to doing something, maybe initially for free as a pilot, and see the value, and then maybe they roll it out further. So that's definitely an option, and we've only got a few seconds left before we've got to head back. So, so actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to offer that to a couple of my best clients and just say, hey, you know, do you have a group of leaders who would be interested in upping their skill set, and it's free. Let's just see how it goes.
That's amazing. What a great idea. Yeah.
Can see everyone's face. It's so awesome. Oh yeah, so Shani, you're on mute. For some reason, Zoom keeps also changing their settings, and yeah. So while Shani's getting the screen back, what was that like for you guys? Who wants to unmute themselves and share?
It was really good, Jennifer. It's incredible how in few minutes you can do so much. I really liked it. I really liked it. And thanks to Veronica, who was a great coach.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
What else were people experiencing?
I can talk. Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late for the conversation. I'm going to turn on my video, but it just looks so horrible today. Sorry. So I was late, and I apologize for that, but what I have been able to hear is super interesting. One thing that I want to share is that it was surprising to me that kind of everybody is on the same page and the anxiety. Hearing how many people have been losing their jobs, and I am in that boat. I feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so thankful and blessed because I continue having a job until today, but how long is that gonna last?
Yeah.
And what am I gonna do? Because
Yeah.
being that there's so many people without a job, there's a lot of people looking for a job, and therefore
Yeah.
is slim. So I think that was, to me, it was kind of good to know that I'm not in the same boat, I'm not alone, but also sad to see how we are all living the same anxiety right now.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I know we have 1 minute left, and so we do have assigned clear and clever roles. The one thing that we wanted to leave you with, and then hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar, is in these times, it can be really great to think of creative roles that you might not have had for people that can really set the groundwork for some of this directness and this authenticity. So just a couple of these here. We have a timekeeper to keep things on track. We have the weather checker in the middle, the weather reporter. The party hat is for Captain Fun. So if you want to assign a Captain Fun, a Ms. Fun, right? Maybe they do the icebreakers or activities.
Yep.
The elephant down there, and people can get their own elephants or, you know, have an elephant mug or something. It's a way to give people permission to mention that elephant in the room. And I've been in meetings actually where someone has gone over and grabbed this and kind of said, I have something to say and I'm afraid to say it, but almost because they had permission to pick up the elephant, they had the courage to say it. The rabbit hole monitor is basically someone who calls out, we're going down a rabbit hole here, people. And a lot of times, again, these things need to be said, and you might feel impolite saying them. So this is just a way to give people roles. And the we hear you one is the bottom liner. If someone's going on and on and on, it's just like, we hear you and we need to get on with it. But we're out of time and we want to be respectful of everything you all need to do. Have some homework on the tools we've learned. Again, it's on our website with the handouts. And we look forward to seeing you next time when we will be talking about living our values every day and continuing to give you tools to help you manage yourselves and your team through this crisis. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And so the theme song for next time is Captain and Tennille, and we will exit with another dance party in anticipation of webinar 3. Thank you guys all for joining.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.